We will begin the caucus meeting of May 16th, 2023 at 7:54 p.m. Present are council members Gilchrist, Heeman, Limpert, Madden, Scarl, and Williamson. Our mayor, law director, finance director, human resources director, our economic development director, safety director, service director, and guests. If there are no additions or corrections, the caucus meeting minutes of May 3rd, 2023 are approved as written. There is one item on the agenda this evening being requested by Council President Broussard and all of council. It is Resolution 2023-65 to celebrate Springvale's 100th anniversary, and we are requesting suspension so it is passed before the anniversary date of May 18th, 2023. Assigning legislation, ordinance 2023-66 will be assigned to the Building, Zoning, and Development Committee. Ordinances 2023-59, 60, 61, 64, as well as resolutions 2023-62 and 63 will be assigned to the Finance Committee. Scheduling committee meetings for Tuesday, May 23rd. Please keep in mind, though, that there is a public hearing scheduled for 6:45 that evening.
Council President Pro Tem, did you say it was 59 through 60?
59, 60, 61, 62, 63, and 64.
64, all of them? Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Councilman Limpert, would you like to schedule a Building, Zoning, and Development Committee meeting?
I would. So I think that we were scheduling a public hearing at 6:45, right? You said?
Yes.
So we'll schedule at, I assume that's going to be at least 10 minutes. Let's go at 6:55, and if it starts a little later, that's good. So 6:55 to 7:15, and we'll cover 52, 53, 54, and 66. Those are all ordinances. And PDC case number 23-24148.
Give me those numbers again.
Sure. Ordinances 2023-52, 53, 54, and 66.
Okay. And then,
The PDC case was 23-24148.
thank you. And also, Councilman Limpert, would you like to schedule a Finance Committee meeting?
I would. So I will schedule finance to start after BZD completes at 7:15, and that will be to discuss, as you mentioned, ordinances 2023, 59, 60, 61, Resolution 62, Resolution 63, Ordinance 64, and Resolution 65. Or excuse me, not 65, 64. Stop at 64.
Yes, okay. And you want to start that at,
7:15.
okay.
I asked that the finance director and I think do I need the economic development director at this, it looks like? There's a,
Mayor or her designee.
yeah, mayor or designee, because it looks like there's a lot of directors I'm going to need here for HR and finance and ARPA funds, so all of your designees, sounds like a lot of them. Thank you.
We'll all be there.
They'll all be
It'll
there.
be a party.
It will be. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, does anyone else on council have anything they wish to bring up this evening? Anything from the administration?
No, Madam President.
Thank you, Mayor. Seeing nothing else, the caucus meeting of May 16th is adjourned at 7:58 p.m. The council meeting of May 16th, 2023 will now come to order at 8:01 PM. The audience is invited to join council in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Broussard, Ms. Gilchrist,
Here.
Mr. Glassburn, Ms. Heeman,
Here.
Mr. Limpert,
Present.
Mr. Madden,
Here.
Mr. Scarl,
Present.
Ms. Williamson.
Here. If there are no additions or corrections, the council meeting minutes of May 3rd, 2023 are approved as written. The following legislation is considered for suspension of the rules this evening on first reading, Resolution 2023-65. Moving into reports, Mayor Daley Jones, do you have a report this evening?
I do, Madam President. Thank you. The North Olmsted Police Department took back 34.75 pounds of unwanted medications during the month of April. The 6 West Shore Police Departments, including Bay Village, Fairview Park, Lakewood, North Olmsted, Rocky River, and Westlake, took back a total of 242.65 pounds of medications, and that is for the DEA April drug take-back participation. Members of the Northeast Ohio Human Trafficking Task Force on Thursday, May 11th, arrested 10 men in connection to a human trafficking sting in North Olmsted. The Ohio Attorney General announced the arrest after a judge in the Lorain County Court sentenced a man to life in prison for human trafficking. Among the 10 arrested were the former Westlake City School District Superintendent, a middle school teacher, and a nonprofit executive. Our Director of Public Safety, Jennifer Schofield, participated in the one-day human trafficking sting, which was one of the largest in the area to date, held in conjunction with the North Olmsted Police Department, West Shore Enforcement Bureau, and the Ohio Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force to identify those providing and purchasing commercial sex. Congratulations to our police department for their diligence and hard work. President Biden has proclaimed May 2023 National Mental Health Awareness Month. According to a recent CDC report, the number of female high school students seriously considering suicide jumped from 24% in 2019 to 30% in 2021. The percentage of those who made a suicide plan increased from 19.9% to 23.6% in that same time frame, and suicide attempts rose from 11 to 13.3%. The American Academy of Pediatrics and Children's Hospital Association have declared children's mental health a national emergency. Springville Ballroom is celebrating its 100th anniversary this Thursday evening with a centennial dance from 6 to 9 p.m. Tickets are $10 at the door. Guests are invited to dress in the garb of their favorite decade from the 1920s through today. DJ Carl Sanch will provide music, and there will be dance lessons, a gift basket raffle, cocktails, and other fun. The North Olmsted Department of Recreation and Public Engagement presents its annual ice show, Skating Through the Decades, at 7:30 this Friday, May 20th, at 2 and 7:30 p.m. Saturday, May 21st, and at 4 p.m. on Sunday, May 22nd, at the North Olmsted Recreation Center. Tickets are $12, and the show will feature a cast of over 100 skaters. We celebrate National Police Week this week. I had the privilege of presenting Police Chief Bob Wagner with a special proclamation yesterday, and we thank all our police officers for their service and honor those who have lost their lives in the line of duty. And finally, May 21st through the 27th is the 49th Annual National EMS Week. In 1974, President Gerald R. Ford authorized EMS Week to celebrate EMS practitioners and the important work that they do. The theme of 2023 EMS Week is EMS, where emergency care begins. We thank all our EMS workers for their daily contributions that they make to keeping us all healthy and safe. I will be presenting a proclamation to Fire Chief Ed Shep next week to mark the occasion. And that, Madam President, concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Director of Law Garreau. do you have a report this evening?
Thank you. Yes, just a brief comment about a pending matter that you folks were involved in to the extent that you passed legislation to help get this moving. This is Northern Trust Company versus Susie Marie Walsh. This is a foreclosure action concerning the property on Oring that we've been dealing with now for well over a year, if not closer to 2 years. You had passed legislation to demolish that property. And the court granted the Northern Trust Company a limited period of time to demolish it, or we would demolish it. So of course, they filed a motion to extend the time to demolish it, having already had more than enough time to make arrangements. The court did grant that motion until May 30th, 2023. However, who do you think's cutting the grass in the meantime? City of North Olmsted is, because this is a symptom of a disease with the foreclosure and the banking and financing industry, where they have an equitable interest in the house, they don't own the house, they have no incentive to transfer title when they foreclose, the property sits there, it's abandoned, it deteriorates, it becomes blighting influence in the neighborhood, and then it affects other property owners. This is a prime example of that. You ask for more time to do something you've had months to do. The order was originally under February 22nd, so here we are asking for an additional period of time to do something. Nothing gets done, and then we end up sending people out to take care of the property because it's a mess. That's just one house, and this is North Olmsted. But you can imagine when you get into some of the other communities where they have more homes that are abandoned, what that can do to your city, and just gut the neighborhoods where abandoned properties go into foreclosure. Banks don't take responsibility for them. They don't transfer the properties into the bank name, because once they transfer them into their own names, then they're going to be held responsible for maintenance. They want the money from them, but they don't want to take care of them. This is that prime example. And fortunately, it's going to be torn down one way or the other. You approved the legislation, it's going to come down. Recently saw it listed on for sale. We went down and immediately filed with the recorder's office, we filed a affidavit of facts related to title and made it very clear the property was under an order to demolish. It was a final order, nobody appealed it, and that building will be torn down. I'll do everything I can to make sure that happens, because the neighbors in that neighborhood and the people of North Olmsted do not deserve to have that happen to their community. So we're going to do everything we can do to make sure it gets followed. I hope that when we see you in June, that it will be addressed. So I'll keep you up to date. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Director of Finance Copper, do you have a report this evening?
Yes. The audit is continuing. We will have to file our general purpose statements at the end of the month, by the end of the month. The auditors are still reviewing our documentation and the footnotes and all that, so we should get our opinion before the end of the month. Additionally, we, at the request of the mayor, we are planning a purchasing, contracting extravaganza with the finance department and the law department to go over purchasing processes and decision points so that we can ensure that we have a smooth process going forward, that we respect what those contracting rules are and purchasing rules are. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. We will now move into council committee reports, and as chairwoman of the Public Safety, Health, and Welfare Committee, I do not have a report this evening. Councilman Limpert, chairman of the Building, Zoning, and Development Committee, do you have a report this evening?
No report this evening, Madam President Pro Tem.
Thank you. Councilwoman Heeman, chairwoman of the Recreation, Public Parks, and Buildings Committee, do you have a report this evening?
I do, thank you. The Recreation, Public Parks, and Buildings Committee meeting was held on Tuesday, May 9th. The meeting was called to order at 7:31 p.m. Present were committee members Heeman and Scarl, Council President Broussard, Council members Gilchrist, Glassburn, Madden. The mayor, directors present were the Director of Recreation, Public Engagement, Human Resource, Economic Development, Service Department, and the Special Assistant to the Mayor. The committee met to discuss Resolution 2023-58, a resolution authorizing acceptance of grant funding awarded by the Cuyahoga County Council in the amount of $35,000 to provide for construction of improvements at Springvale Golf Course and Ballroom. further authorizing the mayor to enter into necessary agreements, therefore, and declaring an emergency. Ms. Heeman opened the discussion by stating that the resolution before us is a grant from the Cuyahoga County Council, supported by our own county council member, Pat Kelly, and is for the improvement of the handicap ramp, which primarily services Springvale Ballroom and the clubhouse. Director Pinchuk explained that the funds would allow us to put in a new ramp which would replace the stairs behind the stage and build a ramp to enter into the ballroom directly. Currently, the handicap access is through a single-person elevator of sorts that loads from the outside of the building and is then accessed from inside the building once it reaches the ballroom level. The current situation does not allow for a great deal of assistance since it is a single-person elevator. The change to a ramp would permit more friendly and inclusive access because it would allow an entire family to enter the building as a group using the ramp. The funds would provide for full payment of an aluminum ramp, but we could upgrade to the installation of a concrete ramp if some city funds were added to the grant funding. The cost of an aluminum ramp is estimated to be $35,000, while the cost of a concrete ramp would cost approximately $70,000. Director Pinchuk reported that the additional money could become available because the cost of the parking lot replacement is likely to come in well under budget, leaving funds available for the possibility of a more desirable concrete ramp. Ms. Heeman made a motion to recommend to all of council Resolution 2023-58, was seconded by Mr. Scarl. The motion passed 2-0. The meeting concluded at 7:30 p.m., and I would like to, at this time, take the opportunity on behalf of all of us to thank County Councilman Mr. Kelly for helping accomplish this for us. Thank you, Mr. Kelly. That
Agreed.
concludes my report.
Thank you. As a member of the Finance Committee and on behalf of Finance Chair Chris Glassburn, I'll be providing the report. The Finance Committee met on May 9th, 2023 at 7:38 p.m. Present were council members Gilchrist, Heeman, Madden, Scarl, and committee members Glassburn and Williamson, Council President Broussard, the mayor, directors of finance, human resources, economic development, safety, service, recreation, the special assistant to the mayor, and guests. On the agenda was Resolution 2023-57, which reads, a resolution approving the award of a job creation grant to R.E. Warner and Associates, and further authorizing the mayor to enter into a grant agreement and declaring an emergency. Mayor Jones and Director Upton spoke on this matter. R.E. Warner is relocating their headquarters to North Olmsted. The company has been granted a 10-year job creation grant, which will create a total of 180-plus jobs in the city and over $15 million in payroll. The minimum salary base for each employee is estimated to be around $87,000. Director Upton indicated that this is the largest business attraction project in the last 20 years here in the city. A motion was recommended for approval to all of council, and the motion passed with a vote of 2-0. Ordinance 2023-46 was addressed in committee and will be held in committee pending further research. A motion was made to hold Ordinance 2023-46 in committee, and the motion passed with a vote of 2-0. Finance Committee meeting concluded at 8:22 p.m. Thank you. Councilman Scarl, Chairman of the Environmental Control Committee, do you have a report this evening?
No report, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gilchrist, Chairwoman of the Intergovernmental Relations Committee, do you have a report this evening?
I do not, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Madden, Chairman of the Streets and Transportation Committee, do you have a report this evening?
No report, Madam President.
Thank you. Are there any letters or communications to come before council at this time?
No, Madam President.
Thank you. Moving into audience participation, thank you for attending tonight's council meeting. Public comment offers the opportunity for members of the public to share information and bring issues and concerns to the attention of city council members. It is not a debate, and public comment speakers should not expect a back and forth exchange. Council members may ask clarifying questions of the speaker, city staff, or fellow council members. Those attending city council meetings should show the same respect to others that they wish to have shown to them. If there is anyone in the audience who would like to address council, please come to the podium, state and spell your name and address for the clerk. If you live in a city other than North Olmsted, please state the name of that city and proceed with your comments. You will have up to 5 minutes.
Alejandro Chalk, 24677 Randall Drive, North Olmsted. I just wanted to register a little bit of disappointment with the recent public meeting for the Lorraine Road Corridor Study. I thought it was well advertised by the city, but I was a little bit surprised by the lack of attendance in general and the lack of presence of any elected officials, at least in the event's first hour. The study seeks to reimagine the Lorraine Road corridor and will most likely line up with ODOT PID 107287, which is an urban paving project on Lorraine Road from Canterbury to Stearns, slated for 2025 construction. So I've attended both public meetings to date, and I've registered my thoughts on the outreach survey that went out several months back. And I've spoken at length to the project consultants, several of whom I know personally, to get their take on the project and a little bit of a more realistic view of what might be coming from this project. I work for a living in this industry, as many of you know, so it's not been too difficult to work out what the likely outcomes of the study are. I would just caution the city, the planning department, and council to be careful with the words transformational and generational when dealing with a project that in most likelihood will not have sufficient time or budget to acquire significant right-of-way, directly impact utility lines, or conduct sufficient capacity analysis to justify a change in lane makeup along the corridor. Rather, I would encourage those whose expertise is not in civil infrastructure to use words such as foundational and first steps, as that is what this project can achieve if done correctly. If thought, effort, dollars, and political intelligence are brought to bear, this project can lay the groundwork for significant improvements to not just the corridor, but the gateways of our community. Unfortunately, what I've seen to date concerns me at least that some of those factors may not be present. I would encourage the planning director to do less thrift shopping in North Olmsted and pay a little more attention to the details of the figures and drawings that are presented to the public. For a project that claims to coordinate with RTA in anticipation of its next BRT line, which may traverse Lorraine Road, I was shocked to see that nearly all of the bus routes shown on the displays at the public meeting do not exist. The 55 does not connect North Olmsted to the Detroit Road corridor in Lakewood. The 22 does not turn down North Rocky River Drive into Berea, and the 25 does not take Detroit through Lakewood, it takes Madison. These may be silly things to a panel of individuals who don't take transit, don't work with transit agencies on a daily basis, or simply ride the bus to the ball game. But for a study that intends to emphasize the potential for new and useful transit connections to North Olmsted, the failure to present correct transit lines on maps presented to the public tells me that the planning department either isn't reviewing these materials or is simply not engaged in the project as a whole. It doesn't take a transit rider to identify incorrect route maps when the city places the correct RTA route maps in front of their own incorrect presentation materials. I would encourage council to engage the city and the planning department to ensure that in the future meeting later this summer that the materials do accurately reflect all of the transit connections that are possible. But lastly, I'll close on a positive note. I fully support the Lorraine Road Corridor Study. My criticisms here are meant solely to ensure that the end product meets muster and can be used as a framework for future success. I would encourage council to encourage the city and its team to consider the following important treatments along the corridor: access management through duplicative driveway consolidation and landscape medians, improved transit access with new bus shelters, and consideration of curb-cut inlet landscape stormwater management treatments, all of which can help beautify the corridor and help reduce some of our flooding concerns and also lay the foundation for a much more revitalized corridor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, if I may.
Director.
There's a lot of hard work that goes into these things. It's pretty easy to come up for your 5 minutes of fame and lob bombs when you really don't know what's going on. We talk about prudence and we talk about studies, and we find it hard to really take input from someone who produced such a flawed document that we had to pay additional money to have it reviewed. Further, we as an administration reject the notion that we should settle for something less than aspirational and transformational. We recognize that there are many steps along the process, and without an aspirational and transformational plan, we'll get the same old, same old. Again, it's easy to lob bombs, but the mayor and myself sat with the director of the RTA, the director of NOACA, and various other agencies. We had the city planning department from the city of Cleveland. Director Huang is a dear friend of mine. Their neighborhood planning team was in our meeting, along with the executive director of the Cams Corner West Park neighborhood, the director of planning from the Metro Parks, the director of planning from the RTA, Dr. Makarachi from NOACA, and Mary Kay Costello from Fairview Park. So we're not only coordinating across multiple political jurisdictions, but multiple agencies within that. I too share a bit of disappointment that we didn't get the attendance that we perceived or we thought we might get. We had the unfortunate circumstance of being on the nicest day of the year with prom right around the corner and I believe 2 band concerts. So there was a little bit of scheduling that I certainly take my share of responsibility for. But again, there's a lot of hard work that goes into these things and a lot of pre-planning, and we strive to be transformational. We don't strive to lob bombs and get our 5 minutes of fame, because the work is hard and it takes a lot of it, and we're committed to a transformational plan for Lorraine Road. So thank you.
Thank you, Director.
My name is Gary Camuso, 6097 Stafford Drive. And I'd just like to ask some questions. I'm not too keen on this city council. I usually get along with it, people, but I've got a few questions, first of all. And I want to know if it's a law or an ordinance. Where do these young parents think that they can walk their kids in a stroller in the middle of the street, whether it's daylight or dark? I almost killed 3 people pulling out of my driveway. 2 SUVs were parked in front of my house to my apron. And here I'm pulling out. I can't see over the SUVs. I can't see anything. And I'm just so happy I stopped, because here comes a stroller and 2 adults walking that baby down that street. I see it happen all the time. They want to walk their dogs, they want to walk them in the street. Why? I have no idea. I just wonder if there's an ordinance or anything else that can be stopped, or have these people stop using the street. I know kids ride bicycles in the streets. The sidewalks are terrible. But sidewalks are terrible and better than getting 3 people hit by a vehicle, especially a baby. Is there an ordinance, or is there a law that they can't do it?
Madam President?
Director.
I think that the first place to go with something like that is if you see something that you have a concern with public safety would be to notify the police department and ask that they come out to respond to the situation. Problem is usually by the time they get there, they're gone already. So to the extent that we have a law, the only way it's going to get enforced, whether it's obstructing traffic or something of that nature, is only way it's going to be enforced is if there's actually a police presence to come out and observe what's happening to be able to do something about it. But that means that the first step needs to be that phone call if there's a concern about a safety issue for your own or theirs, whether they're willfully walking down the street oblivious to the safety hazard. The only way they're going to be directed to stop that is if the police are involved.
And they were walking with the traffic,
Yeah.
so they couldn't see any oncoming cars.
Yeah.
behind them.
Yeah, and I think you indicated they were walking in the road or in the middle of the street? Were they walking in the curb?
They were walking
Yeah.
just two SUVs, so what are they, 7 foot wide?
Right,
If they're that,
yeah.
they were walking 7 foot into the street, not on the sidewalk, not on the tree lawns, not on anything. They were walking 7 feet into the street.
Understood.
And this, I want to say our neighborhood's getting younger and younger and younger, which is great. But there are some older people here that are sighted, not sight impaired, but you know, they have problems seeing. I just thank the Lord I didn't hit them. And another question I have to ask, with Lorraine Road, who gives permission for these automobile trucks to park in the, I almost saw somebody get killed right at the post office. He's coming right in front of the truck. Nobody could see him going, you know, going from the east side, or going east.
Madam President, did you want to?
Mayor.
Yeah, Mayor.
That is against the law in the city of North Olmsted. And if you see that happen, please call the police department immediately, and our officers will come out and cite those truck drivers. But they don't, if there's no police present, like, again, like the director of law just stated, we have to get the phone calls to notify the police that it's happening. I call, you can ask my directors, they actually make fun of me because I am calling our non-emergency number 6 times a week because I see them unloading, and they will send an officer out, and the officer will cite those truck drivers.
Okay, now, yesterday, coming home in the dark, again, on a side street in my development, either a contractor or the people delivered bunch of mulch and put it right on the street in front of their home. And I don't understand, I mean, there's policemen that cruise our neighborhood. Every night they go by. There's a couple that live in the neighborhood. Well, why can't things be done? I mean, it's just, it's crazy. It's nuts. You know, I almost hit that pile because there's no lights, no nothing. We're on the, you know, and I mean, it had to be 4 yards of topsoil or mulch, so it was a ton. And people don't want it in a driveway, too bad, then don't buy mulch. You know? It's an inconvenience for the neighborhood, first of all, because they gotta load everything into whatever they're gonna load to get it in the backyard, front yard, whatever they have to do. So that means their backhoe or their front end loader or their whatever is coming into the street, into traffic, to load, unload, so on and so forth. And that again, I would imagine I have to call the police.
Madam President?
Mayor.
Yes, sir, but if you could, when you're done with your comments to City Council, if you could speak with our Public Safety Director here, and she'll take all the information down and make sure that we take care of that this evening.
Okay, it's probably gone by now because there's a landscaping company there, but this morning.
It'd be good to know the address. Thank you.
Madam President, if I may too.
Director.
One role that I think council can play in something like the turning lane situation with the trucks that park in that lane to unload vehicles, you can change the penalties. And I think that there's a point at which somebody's going to sit up and pay attention if there's a minimum mandatory $750 fine. Now, that's a bit much, but at some point, it wouldn't take very many times for people to sit up and pay attention when the fines are levied for going and committing that violation. It's something you could look at. And I think frequently the repeat offenders of any of these motor vehicle violations, horns, we've heard the horn issue, people complaining about the dealerships beeping horns. There's ways to do it. You'll get people's attention real quick when it becomes the type of offense where you're required to appear in court. It's going to be a $750 fine or a $500 fine. Go back and tell your boss you parked in the center stripe of the road and you got fined $500, and I'm pretty sure that character is not going to do it again.
Who gets the fine?
What's that?
The dealership gets the fine?
No, the driver would. Yeah, I've thought about whether we could set up a way where the dealership would be fined as well. I've spent time thinking about that as I drive from one end of North Olmsted to the other several times a day, and I witness these vehicles doing that. That's a little harder to do, but the vehicles, the trucks parked in the turning lane, that's easy. And I pull out of that post office every day. I drop off, and then I go west, and it's the same problem. You can't. You're almost going around the vehicle. And it's extremely dangerous. And in fact, I drove by one day, and there was a school bus parked there, and there was a car. It was an accident involving a school bus and a car, and there was a truck sitting in the middle lane. It was a minor accident, but still. So it's one role you could play if you wanted to look at that issue in safety, or assign it to a committee to talk about it. Talk to the police department, talk to the mayor, who's obviously witnessed plenty of it. You could throw me on that list. I've seen it a lot. And you could consider that, what you think might be, maybe you could even talk to the car dealerships and have them come to a committee meeting, ask them to appear, if they will.
Do you cater to the car businesses or the dealers by doing their sidewalks and everything else like that?
One more time, please, sir.
Do you cater to the dealers or the car companies to maintain their entrances and exits? I mean, when a plow comes down my street, I got 4 feet of snow on my apron. When a plow goes down North Lorraine Avenue, there's not a speck of snow on those entries going into Mercedes or whatever.
Sir?
Oh,
We've exceeded the 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
If you'd like to proceed, we can
I'm sorry.
make a motion to give you more time.
I do want to talk to Ms. Gilchrist about my tree on my tree lawn.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no other comments from the audience, we will now move into legislation.
Legislation on third reading. Ordinance 2023-18, introduced by Mayor Jones, an ordinance amending section 1118.13 of the Planning and Zoning Code of the Codified Ordinances of the City of North Olmsted entitled Offices and Services in order to limit the location of specified uses.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-18 and ask for a second.
Second. Motion to adopt ordinance 2023-18 made by Councilman Limpert, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson. Roll call, please.
Sorry. Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-18 is adopted by a vote of 6-0.
Resolution 2023-55, introduced by Mayor Jones, a resolution adopting the alternative tax budget of the City of North Olmsted for fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2024, and submitting the same to the Cuyahoga County Fiscal Officer and its Budget Commission, and declaring an emergency.
Madam President,
Mr. Limpert.
I'd like a motion to adopt resolution 2023-55 and ask for a second.
Second. Motion to adopt resolution 2023-55 made by Councilman Limpert, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Resolution 2023-55 is adopted by a vote of 6-0.
Legislation on second reading, Resolution 2023-57, introduced by Mayor Jones, a resolution approving the award of a job creation grant to R.E. Warner and Associates, Inc., and further authorizing the mayor to enter into a grant agreement and declaring an emergency. Resolution 2023-58, introduced by Mayor Jones, a resolution authorizing acceptance of grant funding awarded by the Cuyahoga County Council in the amount of $35,000 to provide for construction of improvements at Springfield Golf Course and Ballroom, further authorizing the mayor to enter into necessary agreements thereto and declaring an emergency. Legislation on first reading, ordinance 2023-59, an ordinance amending the rates of compensation for administrative personnel to add an information system specialist in the Division of Police for the year of 2023, and otherwise restating the compensation rates and descriptions for various administrative and legislative personnel for the year 2023 and declaring an emergency as amended. Ordinance 2023,
Madam President, I introduce and place on first reading.
Ordinance 2023-60, an ordinance authorizing the Director of Human Resources to solicit proposals for comprehensive general liability insurance for the city of North Olmsted for 2023, and further authorizing the mayor, subject to approval of the Board of Control, to enter into a contract for said insurance coverage and declaring an emergency.
Madam President, I introduce and place on first reading.
Ordinance 2023-61, an ordinance to authorize the execution of then and now certificates by the finance director and the payments of amounts due for various purchase orders and declaring an emergency.
I introduce and place on first reading.
Resolution 2023-62, a resolution dispensing with the RFP process and authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Highland Software, Inc. to provide digital imaging services at a cost of $43,443 in approved ARPA funds and declaring an emergency.
I introduce and place on first reading.
Resolution 2023-63, a resolution dispensing with the RFP process and authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Highland Software, Inc. to provide digital imaging services for the purpose of converting street file images at a cost of $3,235.30.
I introduce and place on first reading.
Ordinance 2023-64, an ordinance to make appropriations for the Great Northern Bridge project for the year ending December 31st, 2023.
I introduce and place on first reading.
Resolution 2023-65, a resolution recognizing Springvale Ballroom and celebrating its 100th anniversary and declaring an emergency.
On behalf of Council President Brossard, myself, and all of council, I introduce and place on first reading and ask for suspension of the rules requiring 3 readings and formal committee review.
Madam President,
Councilman.
I make a motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings and formal committee review for Resolution 2023-65 made by Councilman Limpert, seconded by Councilwoman Heeman. Roll call, please.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Madam President,
Hold on one second. Where am I? Motion passed by vote of 6-0. If there is anyone in the audience who wishes to address council regarding Resolution 2023-65, please approach the podium now.
Madam President,
Councilman.
seeing none, I make a motion to adopt Resolution 2023-65 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt Resolution 2023-65 made by Councilman Limpert, seconded by Councilwoman Heeman. Roll call, please.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes. Resolution 2023-65 is adopted by a vote of 6-0.
Ordinance 2023-66, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Cuyahoga County Land Reutilization Corporation to purchase vacant property known as permanent parcel number 237-19-027.
Madam President, I introduce and place on first reading.
Thank you, Mayor. Moving into scheduling committee meetings for Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023, after the public hearing at 6:45 p.m. that evening. Councilman Limpert, would you like to schedule a Building, Zoning, and Development Committee meeting?
I would. Thank you, Madam President Pro Tem. I will schedule a Building, Zoning, and Development meeting at 6:55 p.m., and that will be to discuss ordinances 2023-52, 53, 54, and 66, as well as PDZ case 23-24148. And I would ask that the mayor and her directors of expertise related to those ordinances be present.
Thank you. And Councilman Limpert, as Vice Chair of the Finance Committee, would you like to schedule a meeting?
I would, and for that, I will schedule a meeting at 7:15, and that will be to address ordinances 2023-59 and 2023-60 and 2023-61, and then resolutions 2023-62 and 2023-64, and then just to throw it on, ordinance 2023-64 as well. And I would ask that the finance director and any of the other directors from the mayor that need to address finance matters be present.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the floor to excuse the absence of Council President Broussard?
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to excuse Council President Broussard.
Second.
Motion to excuse Council President Broussard made by Councilwoman Heeman, seconded by Councilman Scarl. Roll call, please.
Ms. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
Motion passes with a vote of 6-0. Is there a motion on the floor to excuse the absence, God bless you, of Councilman Glassburn?
Madam President,
Ms. Heeman.
I'd like to make a motion to excuse the presence of Councilman Glassburn at this evening's meeting.
Second.
Motion to excuse Council President Broussard made by Councilwoman,
Glassburn.
sorry, it says Broussard. Motion to excuse Councilman Glassburn made by Councilwoman Heeman, seconded by Councilman Scarl. Roll call, please.
Ms. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Motion passes with a vote of 6-0. With the agenda being completed and there being no further business to come before council, this meeting of May 16th, 2023 is adjourned at 8:42 PM.